Well, you mentioned Meghan there. Now, she and Harry have been caught up in another row with Spotify this week. What more can you tell us about that?
Yes, we still yet to see any content really on Spotify from Harry and Meghan, but it is still causing a controversy. And this involves a very notorious comedian in the US called Joe Rogan. He's not particularly well known here, I don't think, but he has a very, very successful podcast with Spotify. He has been propagating some anti-vaccination views, which have caused real upset. And as a result, some very famous names, including the musician Neil Young, have decided to withdraw their content from the streaming giant. There was a lot of pressure on Harry and Meghan to say something about this. They have. They made clear that they are concerned about it too, and it's an issue they raised back in April with the streaming giant bosses. But they also made clear that they were not willing to join the kind of exodus of people, and that they would stay and continue working with Spotify. Obviously, there's two streams of thought, I think, on this. Is one, well, why not be a subversive from within and try and affect change if you're part of an organisation? But of course, there is a lot of criticism from people who say that they're great advocates of this kind of, we're going to campaign against misinformation in the media, and yet, you know, at the first hurdle they decide to take the money over their principles. I mean, different people will think different things, and I'm sure our viewers will have differing opinions on it as well.
This row with Spotify has really thrust the Sussexes back into the spotlight. How do you think they've handled it so far?
Well, this is a nightmare for Harry and Meghan, because for years they've gone on about the dangers of misinformation. It's become a real sort of pet cause of theirs. I think Harry's even become a commissioner against disinformation or something like that. And then here they are with Spotify accused of spreading disinformation through Joe Rogan's very popular podcast. But they've signed a very lucrative deal with Spotify, Harry and Meghan. It's meant to be worth about £18 million or something. So between their principles and money, it's always a question of which will they go for. And it seems they've gone for the money. They put out a rather sort of mealy-mouthed statement about the dangers of misinformation, but they've made clear they're sticking with Spotify. So it looks like sort of Joe Rogan's won, really.
And Charlotte, they say that they are monitoring the situation and they're looking to Spotify to meet the moment.
Yeah.
If not much changes, do you think that they'll actually quit and hand the money back?
I don't think they'd ever hand the money back, but they could sort of hide behind this because it's been a good year or so since they actually released a podcast. Archie spoke his first words on their last podcast, so that shows how long ago it was. And I think if there have been delays behind the scenes, I have heard there have been problems with the podcast and quite how the formula is going to pan out. They can slightly hide behind this and use it maybe as an excuse for another delay. I don't know, but I don't think they'll be handing the money back. They might just be hiding behind this for a few more months.
Look, credits to Joe Rogan. I mean, like most people in Britain, I'm not that familiar with his work, but from what I hear, he's a really hard worker. He apparently produces about 200 podcasts a year. I mean, my goodness, we've only had one from Harry and Meghan for £18 million, so they're hardly providing value for money, are they?
Yeah, he's probably thinking, God, I churn out this content every week. Who are you guys to chime in and say, I need to meet my moment with Spotify?
If I was Rogan, I'd be asking for a pay rise.
Yeah, I can't wait to listen to his next podcast. It's going to be wild.
Richard, to one of the stories that you wrote about last week, what can you tell us about Harry and Meghan meeting in secret with a Hollywood power couple?
This is really intriguing. It's that Harry and Meghan have been courting Tom Holland and Zendaya, and they've got quite a lot in common, this couple. You know, like Harry, Tom's a British lad, you know, grew up in London. He's got his American actress girlfriend now. And it seems like Harry and Meghan want a bit of their stardust to, you know, rub off on them. It's not clear why they wanted to meet them, and the meeting did happen, but it could well be that they wanted them on their podcast, because I mean, you know, what a coup it would be for particularly their first proper podcast to have the hottest Hollywood couple, you know, in the world at the moment. Would be such a coup for them. But it remains to be seen if they've been successful So
'Cause they pulled out quite a few of the big guns for their first podcast. They had Elton John, didn't they? So they obviously called in a few contacts for that first one, but then it just disappeared into the ether. So probably a wise move if they're courting Tom Holland.
yeah, it'd be very interesting to see. But from what I was told, Tom and Zendaya were quite bemused by this approach, because they'd never really met them. A few people have sort of posted pictures of Tom at a polo match where Harry had played, but from what I've heard, he didn't talk to him. He doesn't know him at all, so it was quite strange.
That's classic Meghan. She just randomly contacts people. I mean, she's done this before. I suppose thinking, I'm Meghan Markle, I have every right to contact a total stranger and ask them for a favour.
Well, I guess we'll have to see who turns up on their next podcast then. Charlotte, a story of yours now, and you wrote at the weekend that Meghan Markle could be expanding her business interests further by reviving an old brand. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so the TIG was her blog that she had for 2 years before meeting Prince Harry, or actually while she'd met Prince Harry, but then she eventually had to shut it down once the relationship became public. And it was one of the first great sacrifices she had to make when she stepped into the royal fold. But it really was her baby, and she was really passionate about it. And it was just absolutely chocker full of Meghanisms. So it was a bit of a gold mine for the press to go through it, I have to say. But she was quite wise probably to let it go. But she's apparently restarting it. And we can tell this because she's applied to have the trademark renewed. And she'd let it lapse before. And now she hasn't let it lapse, essentially. So we're expecting it to be rubber stamped in the next 6 months or so. And then, it remains to be seen. She could be the next Gwyneth Paltrow. Well, it could be like a Goop website.
Yeah, I mean, look how successful Gwyneth Paltrow's been.
Yeah.
Maybe, Meghan will be a
rival. Fortune. And I could quite see Meghan doing it because she really cared about the TIG, and she thinks she's a wonderful writer. So she wants to sort of get her message out there, and she doesn't have social media anymore. So the TIG is her outlet for all her very important views.
But there are some quite controversial things on Gwyneth's website, aren't there? The sort of vagina candles and things like that.
God, if Meghan starts selling things like that, I don't think it would go down very well. But she's not a member of the royal family. She's not a working member of the royal family. So I suppose she has every right to renew this website. Cash in.
Any favourite Meghanisms?
Oh God, the new meeting your moment one was just so classic Meghan. Because what does it mean? It's just yet again a load of old nonsense. With the TIG, she named it after her favourite wine, Le Tiganello, and there were some quite classic comments about that. I mean, I can't exactly imagine Meghan drinking lots and lots of wine and having vendors, but she likes to make it look like she's all relaxed and cool in her free time.
Richard, turning to you now, what did you make of the new roles that Kate and Camilla were taking on?
Well, I think in the case of the Duchess of Cambridge, it is a bitter blow to Harry, really. He loved rugby, and, there's lots of photos of Harry watching the rugby in the past, sometimes seated next to Catherine and William. And so to see that handed over to someone else will be difficult for him. But the fact it's the Duchess of Cambridge, I think, is great, because I think it will, encourage women to take up rugby. It will help sort of broaden the appeal. And you could see from the video of her taking part, a really fun video they did, that they want to use it to make the most of Duchess of Cambridge's appeal and expand. So I think overall they might be quietly pleased, actually. They've got Catherine instead of Harry. Oh, in the case of Camilla's appointment, which hasn't been confirmed yet, but it's been rumoured, the National Theatre. Again, I mean, when the Queen gave that patronage to Meghan, it was a really big thing, because she was thinking, what could I do that would make Meghan feel welcome? What would really work for her? And she thought, as a former actress, making her patron of the Royal National Theatre. And so it was a big thing for her to do. And Meghan, there was any time at all that she was involved in it. But I would like to have seen it gone to Prince Edward, who loves the theatre, who actually used to work for Andrew Lloyd Webber's company, and I think he would have been really enthusiastic. I'm sure Camilla will be great. She loves the theatre too, but I just feel that they're sort of sidelining Edward and his family too, and it's an indication that they're not really seen as part of the future.
Well, that's all we have time for on our YouTube version of the show. For more royal news, views and videos, you can head over to Mail Plus and subscribe to our channel. Goodbye.